It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
And welcome into another edition of Musso at the box. For the second time here in 2024, LSU will oppose the number one ranked team in the country. Texas A&M comes into the box for a massive three-game series that has just postseason implications galore for your Fighting Tigers of LSU. So today we take the full deep dive preview into this series. We'll go through pitching matchups. We'll look at A&M's strengths. We'll look at their weaknesses. There's not many. We will look at keys for LSU, things to expect, things to watch, give you a prediction. We will go through all of it. Fired up to do so, y'all. This is a big one. I understand there hasn't been a lot to get excited about with this LSU baseball team this season, or at least over the last, almost 2 months worth, but you got the number one team coming into your place when you really need wins. This is one that should get you fired up. So join us for the next 30 or so minutes. Smash the like button. Get subscribed up to the YouTube channel if you have not already. Get subscribed up on your favorite podcast app if you have not already. All of that greatly appreciated. You can follow me on social media as well. Let's dive right into it. Let's not waste any more time. We'll start with our series overview. LSU, the home team, comes into this one 29-17, 7-14 in the Southeastern Conference. Texas A&M comes in the consensus number one team in America, 39-6, 15-6 in SEC play. The Aggies lead the all-time series with LSU, 31-28-1. LSU winning the most recent meeting, 2 out of 3 in the regular season in College Station last year to begin the SEC slate. Texas A&M has won the most recent meeting overall, 5-4 decision in the SEC tournament last May. One more thing to kind of include in this series overview, and that is the weather. If you've listened to the show in years prior, or years past, I should say, I hate playing meteorologist. I hate turning this into a weather show, but there is an 80% chance of rain in Baton Rouge on Friday. Jay Johnson was asked at his media availability on Thursday, kind of their plan, monitoring the weather and things of that nature.
We'll pay attention to it tomorrow. In my 3 years here, I've learned it can change quickly. And, we have a kind of a contingency plan, I guess, that the SEC lays out for us. Hopefully it'll move out of here before it's time to play.
Looking at the forecast, that does look like what is going to happen. But as Jay mentioned right there at the top, in his 3 years here, he's learned that it could happen and change very quickly. And it always can. That could be, it could all blow through on Thursday night and be out of here by Friday morning unexpectedly, or it could arrive late and impact the ball game. Looking at the forecast right now in Baton Rouge, it's really supposed to start ramping up around 6, 7 a.m. Rain throughout the day, scattered thunderstorms, all of that. But by 3 o'clock, it should be out of here. So LSU should be able to get it in, no problem with Texas A&M. Look, what happened last year with the weather, not just in the postseason, that was ridiculous, but not just in the postseason, throughout the regular season was ridiculous. LSU has been incredibly fortunate this year. I believe the Xavier game, the Friday night Xavier game, is the only game that has been impacted and had to have been moved for weather purposes so far this year. So it's something that they and us, none of us have had to really deal with, which is very rare, but you have to bring it up a little bit here. But again, looking at the forecast as of now, it does look like it should be out of the city by 3 p.m. And for a 7 o'clock first pitch on Friday night, you should be in the clear there. So that's obviously a very good thing. Now, if you look a little deeper than that, we can move on from the series overview and kind of get into the pitching matchups. That's where we always move to next. A bit of a change in Texas A&M's rotation that we will get to. LSU is running it back. So it will be sophomore lefty Gage Jump on the bump for LSU Friday night. This will be appearance 12, start number 11 for Jump. He is 4-1 on the season with an ERA of 3.62, 49 2/3 innings for Jump. He has walked just 16 and struck out 63. The opponent hitting 199 off of the Tiger lefty. And he's hot right now. Like, he is on fire. What you have gotten if you're LSU from Gage Jump is great. I mean, you're looking at coming off, obviously, 7 shutout against Auburn in his last outing, but that followed up 7 innings against Missouri where he gave up just 1 earned run. You're looking at 1 run on 5 hits in the last 14 innings for Gage Jump. 1 walk, that's the biggest thing, and 20 strikeouts. You might remember when we talked about Gage Jump early in the season and really kind of throughout Southeastern Conference play, we always focused on that walk number for him because this is a guy who pitched 14 innings in college, blew out his elbow, missed an entire season, more than a calendar year, and had to work his way back. It was going to take him time to get command, not necessarily control, command of his stuff. So we always kind of highlighted that walk total, and we kept seeing it decrease and decrease. In the last 2 weeks, it has been virtually non-existent. 1 walk in his last 14 innings to go along with 20 strikeouts, and you've seen what that has allowed him to do. It's allowed him to keep the pitch count a little bit more in order. It's allowed him to get deeper into ball games, and obviously the run total has come way down. So you're looking for that again from Gage Jump. This is going to be one hell of a test. Wait until we get into Texas A&M's offense because, y'all, they are just really, really impressive. Their whole team is impressive. But LSU, like when we come out of this and we talk about this on, after the weekend's over, we all very well could look back and go, man, LSU pitched well, and they're still going to have given up their fair share of runs. That's just how this A&M offense goes. But you can't feel any better about Gage Jump going into this start against this team on this stage, coming off of what he's done the last 2 weeks. So that's a huge positive, and that's who will go for LSU. For Texas A&M, it will be sophomore lefty Ryan Prager. For Prager, this will be start 12, appearance 12. He is 8-0 on the season with an ERA of 2.59 in 59 innings pitched. He has walked just 9 and struck out 80. The opponent hits just 205 off of Prager. Look, the fastball, it's not going to overpower you. It'll be in the low 90s, maybe run it up to the mid, but it's not going to sit there. It'll sit more low 90s. The breaking ball is very good. The pitchability is high for a guy like Ryan Prager. He was matching Luke Holman. Like Luke Holman and Prager each began the season with scoreless streaks of over 20 innings. So high pitchability guy. He's going to be in the strike zone, as you can see, with 9 walks to 80 strikeouts. And when you don't have overpowering stuff, that speaks to him being able to mix his pitches well. That speaks to location. That speaks to command. All of that, it speaks to pitchability. So that's what you're going to be looking at from a guy like Ryan Prager. He also has really kind of settled in as of late. There have been moments this year where you've been able to get to him a little bit. Florida had success early in the season, or early in the Southeastern Conference season, I should say, against him. But it hasn't been, Florida got him for 6 runs in 2 2/3 innings. Auburn got him for 3 in 4 1/3. So there has been opportunity there. Like, he has not been infallible, and it's because he's in the zone all the time. If he's not totally sharp, you can get him, but more often than not, he's been very good. That's kind of a theme that you will see with Texas A&M's pitchers that we're kind of about to go through. Pardon me. Game number 2 for LSU, junior righty Luke Holman on the bump for the Tigers. For Holman, it'll be start 12, appearance 12, 6-3 on the year with a 2.63 ERA, 61 2/3 innings, walked 21, struck out 88. The opponent hitting 173 off of Holman. That's one thing I want to see from Luke Holman this week. The walk number has to come down. That has been a bit of an issue for him the last couple of weeks when, quite honestly, it just wasn't at all the first, 2 months of the season. And that's honestly what's gotten him into trouble. That and the 2-out base runners. But when you look back at that start against Missouri, it was a lot of 2-out base runners that reached for free off of free passes. Like, if you just look back at the last 2 starts for Luke Holman, you're looking, you know what? No, we'll go to the last 3 starts for Luke Holman, you're looking at 8 walks in his last 3 starts combined. That has driven that walk total up immensely. So that's one thing I'm going to look for from him. Again, a high pitchability guy. We know what he is. He's been very, very good at home. He's been much better at home than he has been on the road. So that should be a sign of encouragement there when you look at Holman. For A&M, it'll be sophomore lefty Justin Lampkin, and this is where the change comes in the rotation. Lampkin has been in there plenty. Like, he's got 12 appearances, 11 starts. So this will be his 12th start of the season. He was just more in that Sunday role kind of, and Tanner Jones occupied the second spot. They've moved Tanner Jones out of the rotation, although it stands to reason he will probably pitch Game 3. We'll get to that. But so there's your change. Jones has moved out of the rotation, and Lampkin has moved up a spot. Lampkin has all the talent in the world. That is a name that should be very familiar to LSU fans. If you look back at the series last year between these two teams, LSU jumped out to a big lead in game number 3 early, going for the sweep. And then Texas A&M pulled Chris Cortez, and they put in Justin Lampkin. And he carved up LSU for 4 1/3, allowed 1 run, struck out 5. It ultimately allowed Texas A&M to mount the comeback that they needed to win that game. But he gave them length out of the bullpen, and that he really kind of announced himself right there. It had been a slower start for him early in this. Well, I don't want to say slower start. He'd actually been pitching quite well. He had an ERA sub-2. But that was the coming out because it came against LSU's lineup with Dylan Cruz and Tommy Tanks and, Cade Beloso and Trey Morgan. Go to Braden Joubert, Jordan Thompson. You start naming guys, you're going to leave some out. That was and then he just filled in, slid into the rotation last year and was awesome really the rest of the way. This year, it's been up and down. We mentioned 12 appearances and 11 starts to this point for Lampkin. They just recently reinserted him back into the rotation. So this is how it went for Lampkin. Started the season in the rotation, as you might expect. When they hit kind of the midway point of SEC play, not even, a little bit before, week 3, it started to be a struggle. He pitched into the 4th inning just twice. Never made it out of the 4th inning. Gave up 4 runs on 9 hits against Auburn, 5 runs on 6 hits against South Carolina, 4 runs on 4 hits against Vanderbilt, 5 runs on 5 hits against Alabama. And then they took him and said, okay, step back. We're going to give you a little bullpen action here in the midweek against Houston. They did that, and then they reinserted him into the rotation against Georgia. And he went 5 2/3 shutout with 7 punch-outs, only 1 hit against an electric Georgia Bulldog lineup. So I say all that to say this. There is opportunity against him. Like, we just went through it. He had that really, really rough stretch where teams were able to get him. But they seem to have settled him back down. Because for him to go 5 2/3 shutout against that Georgia lineup is very, very impressive. But if you're looking for an opportunity for LSU to win a ball game this weekend, it might just be with Justin Lampkin on the mound and Luke Holman opposing him for you. That is a matchup on paper that you would look at and go, okay, that should favor LSU. Will it? Well, it remains to be seen. Lampkin, the stuff, fastball low to mid-90s, slider, and a really good changeup as well. He's, like I said, he's got all the talent in the world. Does a guy like Justin Lampkin. For LSU, Game 3, TBA. For Texas A&M, Game 3, TBA. Although, like I said, if they don't use Tanner Jones, it's probably going to be him. 10 appearances, 10 starts on the year, an ERA north of 6.75. The interesting thing there, obviously you see him struggle, and for him it's been a lot of hits. More hits than innings pitched. That's never good. 36 innings, 42 hits. Free passes have been a bit of an issue too. But, I mean, the opponent batting average against is just below 300 on a guy like Jones. The interesting thing there is when he starts a game, even though he's 3-1 and the ERA is over 6, almost 7, when he starts a game, Texas A&M is 9-1. So they've pitched well behind him. And that's kind of what I lean to well, let me not get ahead of myself. We'll get to the bullpen momentarily. If it's not Tanner Jones, you've had a guy like Chris Cortez get starts this year. You've had Shane Sadeo get a start at times this year, and Weston Moss. But I really think it will be Tanner Jones. I really, really do. He has started every single just about every single conference weekend for them. So it is a bit surprising that they would. I mean, I get it. He struggled, but I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, he started every conference weekend. He has started every conference weekend. So I would expect him, if they don't use him before, to throw him back out there. The last 2 starts have been rough. Hasn't got out of the 5th inning. Gave up 6 runs against Alabama and 9 runs in an inning and a third against Georgia. So, again, opportunity there potentially. But that is who I know they have TBA, but that's who I expect it to be. If not, it's going to be somebody who hasn't started quite often this year, and maybe they see that as an opportunity against LSU, who has not been good in game number 3, to be able to do something like that. But we will see. For LSU, it's going to be the same approach that it's been the last few weeks. You're going to use as much as you can to win a ball game in the first 2 and try to win the first 2, and whatever you have left on Sunday, you'll go with. I think something that's going to be massive to that is the health of Nate Ackenhausen. And Jay Johnson at his media availability on Thursday gave this update that really wasn't an update on Nate.
When you are where we are, I mean, it's a benefit,
That is the wrong cut.
Yeah, just don't know. That we'll know tomorrow. You don't have to make a decision until turn lineup card in. He's worked hard on the rehab. You're looking at a senior who's getting down to it. So you guys know the motivation's there to try to get out there and get on the mound. But we'll make a decision on that till tomorrow. And that's not something that's really abnormal. I think it was at Tennessee, and we made a decision literally who was on, who was off right before I took the lineup card out. So it's just part of it this time of year. I'm sure they have somebody that's kind of in the same boat, and you get them here and see what it looks like that day.
So there you go. I mean, for what it's worth, Nate Ackenhausen dealt with a hamstring injury last year as well. He missed about a week, maybe a little bit more. It would be a week Saturday. If you see Nate Ackenhausen this weekend, I would expect that to probably be on Sunday, if you see him this weekend. And yes, that's a big blow to LSU. So you would look at options in that starting role. I know a lot of you are going to ask about Griffin Herring. If you have a chance to win a game, you throw Griffin Herring to win the game. You do not save him to start. That's not how it works. If you somehow don't use him in the first 2 days, sure. But when LSU has an opportunity to close out a game against Texas A&M, if they do, you're going to see Griffin Herring in that spot. It's the same guys. It'll be Javen Coleman, Thatcher Hurd, although I really don't think it'd be Hurd, because they seem to want to use him at the back end of games right now. So Javen Coleman, Cade Anderson, you'd be picking from that crop. Something I would like to potentially see them do maybe is use Sam Dutton as an opener, like they did his freshman year. But we will see. And then, like I said, one more time for A&M, I expect it to be Tanner Jones. So moving on a little bit more with A&M's pitching staff, because as you can kind of see there, they have been able to be scored against. So you might say, well, man, you say that, but they have the second best team ERA in the conference, and that's true. They do, at 3.87. The Aggies are third in the league in strikeouts at 477 in 391 innings. They've been very, very good, top to bottom pitching staff on paper. But what we just went through is the pathway to show you how they've been successful. Starting pitching has not been great for them. It's been good. It has not been great. Their bullpen has been elite. That is the major difference in Texas A&M's pitching staff that I can see this year is the bullpen. Evan Oschenbeck was always really good. He was awesome last year, and he's going to be a problem for LSU this year. Lefty, just a phenomenal breaking ball from Oschenbeck from the left side. 19 appearances, a sub-2 ERA, only 5 walks in 47 innings, 7 saves. Like, he's great. And you're going to see him, and you're not going to have a lot of success hitting against him. That's just the cold, hard truth. But he's always been good. So what has taken their bullpen kind of to the next level is a guy like Chris Cortez, in a sense. Chris Cortez, who almost ended up at LSU this past offseason, is back at Texas A&M and has taken a major jump. The stuff has always been incredible for him. He can hit triple digits. He's going to live in the high 90s with the fastball. The control and the command were the issue, and they aren't this year. He's throwing many, many, many more strikes. 37 and 2/3 innings, just 18 walks, and you've seen that result in an ERA of 3.3. Like, that's the thing. You look at a guy like Brooke Peary. He leads this team in appearances out of the bullpen with 20. He's got a 3.4 ERA. They've been successful in the bullpen, but they also run deep in the bullpen. Like, really, really deep. A guy like Brad Rudis, 16 appearances, 1.57 ERA. Josh Stewart, 16 appearances, 2.45 ERA. You see my point? I could keep going, but I think the point is well driven home now. And that creates a very interesting matchup for LSU this weekend. Because when we've talked about LSU offensively throughout this season, there's been a common theme. LSU has had plenty of success against the opponent's starting pitcher. Like, the plan, the approach, the execution, everything, it's been good against the starter. LSU has struggled to hit bullpens, and they're about to face arguably the best one they've seen all year. That is a huge matchup to watch this weekend, and it's one that drastically favors LSU. Drastically favors LSU. And it leads me to another key that we will get to momentarily when you talk about LSU's pitching. But, that just keep that in mind. The success that LSU has had against starting pitching, A&M's starters showing vulnerability, showing that they are gettable, but their bullpen just being completely shut down, and LSU having struggled against the opponent's bullpen this year. I mean, that if I look at one matchup out, like, you take offense out of it, the matchup I think that favors A&M most of all is their bullpen versus LSU's lineup. Let's talk about Texas A&M's offense, because they are awesome. They are in the same vein as LSU's offense was last season. When you look at Braden Montgomery and Jace Laviolette in the middle of that order, that is, very comparable to Dylan Cruz, Tommy White. Like, I'm not saying those two guys are going to, I'm not saying one of them is going to be the number 2 pick in the draft. That's not what I'm going at. I just mean from like a on paper standpoint, like, that's the kind of tandem you're looking at there. Braden Montgomery, everyone should be very familiar. LSU was in on him in the portal heavily. Went to A&M, transfer from Stanford, 2-way guy, although he's really focused in on hitting, it looks like, the majority of the time here at A&M, and great for them. 365, 23 homers, 73 RBI. The 73 RBI lead the SEC and obviously lead Texas A&M. When you look at Jace Laviolette, 322, 23 homers, both of them, 23 home runs, 61 RBI. They have just been, they've been the guys that clean it up for A&M. But it's not just them. Like, that's when you look at what makes a great lineup, we talk about it often, is length. When it just feels like you can never get through it. It takes forever to get through it. A&M's got that type of lineup. Jackson Appel has really turned it on. He's smoking the baseball. Ted Burton is now smoking the baseball. All of that just creating length. There's power throughout. And the thing that's most impressive, like, you can go through and look where A&M's offense ranks in the SEC, and you're not going to get below 3. The majority of the time, they're 2 right behind Tennessee. But one of the things that I find most impressive about them is the walk total. Texas A&M has drawn the second most walks in the conference this year. 301, I believe it is. I can check that and be, 301 walks. And they've hit 102 home runs. Yo, that's a great ratio. They work at bats. They swing at strikes. They are a tough out. It's one thing to score a lot of runs, to hit a lot of homers, to work counts and to get pitch counts up and to do everything that they can do at the plate, be pesky, be tough outs. That's what ultimately takes this lineup to the next level, and that's something that LSU is absolutely going to have to deal with. So what does success look like for LSU's pitching? As much as we talked about LSU's offense versus Texas A&M's bullpen, LSU's bullpen is going to be the key, I think, to success this weekend on the mound. I really believe that Gage Jump and Luke Holman are going to pitch well. I do. They are going really well right now. Like, I loved the bounce back from Holman. Again, as we mentioned, you want to see him not walk as many guys, and you couldn't ask for anything more from Gage Jump than you're getting right now. I really believe at home those two guys are going to pitch well. So, can LSU get out to a lead early? And if they can, the bullpen is going to be massive here. And the bullpen has been very good for LSU as of late. And it's been multiple guys finally. It hasn't just been Griffin Herring. You know what you have in Griffin Herring. He's incredible. But a guy like Christian Little is incredibly key this weekend for LSU. Y'all, Christian Little, in his last 7 innings, has not allowed a run. 7 straight scoreless innings, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts. He has been awesome over the last week and some change. And Jay Johnson talked about what has kind of led to that turnaround from a guy like Little.
I think he's just continued to the attitude being good over a long period of time, starting there. And then I think we figured out his pitch mix a little bit and how to use stuff. And he's throwing the ball like he knows where it's going, and belief, in the pitch. That's probably the most important thing, is anytime you get them convicted and believing in what they're doing, the stuff usually plays up, and he has good stuff. I mean, it won't surprise me one bit if he's a major league pitcher someday.
He's right. I highlight a guy like Little because he's kind of the poster child for what you're trying to see out of the bullpen right now. A guy like Justin Lohr last weekend against Auburn really had a great outing when otherwise it's been rough for him. Someone like him is going to be key. Fidel Ulloa looked awesome in the midweek. The velocity was back, and that slider just played great off of it. You're probably going to see him this weekend. Can he step up and do it against elite competition? Like I said, I think Gage Jump and Luke Holman are going to pitch well, so I expect you to be in the game when LSU has to turn it over to the bullpen, and they're going to have to hold the line against an elite offense. LSU has pitched better the last 3-4 weeks. Ever since getting run ruled against Vanderbilt, LSU has pitched considerably better. You're about to get a big test. Now, I will throw it out there once again. LSU can pitch well this weekend, and A&M's going to get theirs. We talked about like kind of the similarities to LSU's lineup last year. You're not going to hold A&M down. You're not shutting them out. It's just not going to happen. They're going to break through at some point. They're going to score. So make sure you watch that. Watch it through that lens when you look at how LSU pitches. Now, if LSU just goes getting runs off the field for 3 games, then yeah, we could talk about them not pitching well. But LSU is pitching well enough to be in this series. Can they execute out of the bullpen? Can they get timely hit when they need it? That would ultimately put them over the hump to win a game or steal the series. But those are the 2 big things. LSU's bullpen versus A&M's offense, and LSU's offense versus Texas A&M's bullpen. Those 2 matchups are going to decide this series, I do believe, looking at it preview-wise. Other things to look for LSU, pitching, keep the leadoff man off base, don't allow 2 out runs. And offensively, man, if there's ever a time to get the big hit, it's now. When you have an opportunity step on their throat. Yeah, I mean, you just have to come through. This is a massive weekend for LSU. We've talked a lot the last 2 weeks, and especially the week leading up to this, about their postseason chances, a path, national perspective on it, my perspective on it. And each time we talked about that, I said it's all dependent on this weekend. This weekend can change a lot of it. If LSU gets swept, the tone when I talk about postseason will be dramatically and emphatically different. LSU has to win one game, and I think that they can. LSU has not been swept at home all season. Texas A&M has only swept 2 SEC weekends all season. There has been opportunity to get them. Now, it's been for one game more often than not, but there has been opportunity to get them. Their sweeps were Auburn and Vanderbilt. Auburn is not good. Vanderbilt is, and that was really impressive. But every other time, they've at least dropped one game. On your home field, if you're LSU, you have to get one game. And I think that they can. And I would again circle the Luke Coleman, Justin Lampkin matchup there in game number 2. Game 3 is not going to go well for you. You need to win one of the first 2. That's for sure. And if you steal game 1, then we can talk about getting greedy after that. But the focus is one game at a time and win one. For a series prediction, LSU's not going to win this series. I don't believe that. I think Texas A&M takes 2 out of 3. I will stand pat on that. I think LSU gets a game, but A&M wins the series 2 out of 3. They're a really good team. They're a legitimate national championship contender. They've got talent all over the field and future major leaguers all over the field this year, and I'm actually excited to get to watch them in person this weekend. I wish it didn't have to come against LSU, but that's the way I think it plays out. I think you're looking at LSU coming out of this with 8 conference wins, 8-16, not where they want to be, but how it looks will also, if you win 2 out of 3, how it looks will also impact the rest of the way here for the Tigers. So y'all smash the like button, get subscribed up to the YouTube channel, get subscribed up on your favorite podcast network as well. Follow me on social media. Be here, locked and loaded throughout the weekend. Live coverage here on Musso at the Box.